Well, we'll call the meeting to order. We have enough for a quorum. Public comment. Any public comment? No public comment? All right. Julie wants to run the meeting, and she's...
I was trying to facilitate.
We'll go to other business first, and then we'll come back to the Act 43.
Okay, it's my understanding there was questions concerning the large cap value manager recommendations. I guess I can turn it over to the board for comments to bring that up, and we can go from there.
We had the meeting on December 23rd. At that meeting, 4 of the retirement board members were present, and the board adopted your recommendations that were presented in a report form that day. And I had every reason to believe in my individual conversations with the Board of Commissioners that there was a desire to revisit the large cap value manager recommendation. Okay. So I think that was one of the issues that the board wanted to bring up. And specifically, I think the board was questioning, and again, I don't mean to speak for the board, all of the large cap value fund went to Cook and Bieler, or whether or not some or all of it may need to also go to C.S. McKee. At the report you had presented on December 23rd, Sean, the 5-year return numbers was a difference of 0.6% between the two, and I think they were the numbers ending September 30th, 2003.
Correct.
So we now have an additional quarter through the end of December of 03 in there. I understand that it's not possible to get those numbers yet. To have them here today, that would have been nice, and I think Billy was trying to get those as well too. But I think that was one of the things that the board wanted to look at, because it was close. And again, we have this additional quarter, and I think there's reason to believe that C.S. McKee performed well in that quarter, and that they performed so well that they may have closed that gap.
Okay, as I said, we had talked the other day.
Right.
Those numbers, usually the managers will get those numbers to us 7 to 8 business days.
Correct.
After the quarter end, so we don't have those numbers as of yet.
Right.
Was there, first of all, for our recommendation, I have copies of this if anyone doesn't have one. I can pass around, make sure I'm sending the right stuff around. This is just a little more detailed analysis of the large cap value managers. We took Lord Abbott out since the, after the presentations, we pretty much decided it was really down to 2, C.S. McKee and Cook and Bieler. And really we'll just work off page 1, the rest of it we can use as backup if need be. Again, the highlighted boxes represent the better performing manager of the two over the 5-year period, 3-year period. We also looked at the alpha, which is a risk return adjusted measure. The more positive the alpha, the better risk adjusted return the manager had. We also looked at up markets and down markets. Up markets, we took all of the quarters over a 5-year period in which the Russell 1000, or in this case the S&P Bear value, was positive versus when it was negative. Put those quarters together to see how each manager did in up and down markets. When we did the analysis, you can see pretty much across the board, we had Cook and Bieler as the higher performing manager across the board. We stand by that recommendation. It's not one that we came by lightly. When we did the presentations, they came in, speaking for myself at least, I was much more impressed with Cook and Bieler's in the presentation. How they put stocks into the portfolio. They have a lower turnover, which in turn will lead to lower manager transactions. So on our end, we're willing to stick by our recommendation of Cook and Bieler. Now that being said, that doesn't mean, of course, the board has to go with that. If they wish to go another direction, that's fine, but we'd just like to put on the record that our initial recommendation was Cook and Bieler.
If your recommendation was to look at splitting this fund, the large cap value fund, what would your professional recommendation be then?
If we were looking to split the fund, our recommendation would be to split it, it's approximately $15 million, the total allocation currently. Our recommendation would be to split it $10 million to Cook and Bieler, $5 million to C.S. McKee, and we really have 3 reasons for that. One, we do feel that Cook and Bieler is the better manager at this point. The fund is currently about $10 million underfunded, give or take a few million. We feel we need to get the best-in-class managers in there to help bring the fund back to full health. Secondly, Cook and Bieler's minimum is $10 million. That's the minimum they will accept. Thirdly, this goes to what I discussed at the previous meetings concerning manager risk. If we were to put $5 million with C.S. McKee, that would give them a total of $12 million in the equities. They would have $7 million in international, $5 million in large cap value. That would make them the largest manager on the equity side. They would be tied with Gardner Lewis, the large cap growth manager, who also would have $12 million. Cook and Bieler would have $10 million, and Iron Bridge would have $7 million. So by giving C.S. McKee $5 million I feel that would diversify the fund without putting too much money with one individual manager. If one of the managers were to blow up, you know, probably a year or so ago that would seem unlikely, but when we look at the Putnams, the Pilgrim Baxters of the world over the past year, with various scandals, anything could happen. The more we diversify this out amongst the managers, the less risk we take by giving one manager a significant sum of money. By splitting it 10 million, 5 million, if that were to be the way we were looking to go, that would be our recommendation. Really a secondary recommendation as opposed to our first one.
And for the record as well, so I think the Board of Commissioners was also interested in diversification as well.
Yes.
So I provide this question on that.
If I can, you know, I'm the one that, you know, had the major concern with this, even when we had retirement. You know, the closeness in C.S. McKee and Cook and Butler. You know, at that time, I wasn't thoroughly convinced that, you know, Cook and Butler was the best deal, and yeah, they are. But, you know, with the growth of C.S. McKee and the reorganization of C.S. McKee, I certainly think that they need, you know, to show their wave to make this thing happen. And at that point, then, I'm not opposed to, you know, splitting it. I just think you have to have some kind of credence, you know, in both of them. And if Cook and Butler is at $10 million, that's what it is.
Is that negotiable, Sean? Have you seen that? Have you seen those fund minimums?
We could talk to them and see, but I'm not sure how hard and fast that would be for them. And again, by recommending Cook and Butler, that's in no way are we negative on C.S. McKee. It's like flavors of ice cream. I like chocolate and I like strawberry. Just in this case, I like chocolate a little more. Nothing negative against the second place person in this race.
If we, I think it'll give you a chance to look at the over a period of time how C.S. McKee is doing and can manage that large cap.
Right. And also, you'd mentioned the reorganization with C.S. McKee. While we feel the reorganization has benefited them from where they were 3 years ago, and I'm sure the board has seen that, as C.S. McKee did have the money previously, they ran into a myriad of problems. That has only been 3 years, and we do like to give a firm some time to get their growing pains out. So again, by giving them some money, but not a significant amount, I think would probably be the most prudent action in this, at this point.
Well, though when you say not a significant amount, and when you look at the overall portfolio, though, that it's pretty much then evenly split between 3 fund managers.
Correct. Actually, 4. So that it would go from a range of $7 million for the small cap manager Iron Bridge up to $12 million for C.S. McKee and for Gardner Lewis.
How has Iron Bridge done?
Iron Bridge has done very well. They are in the top percentile just about over the 4-year period. They're coming up on having 5 years worth of data. With small cap managers, we tend not to hold them to that 5-year number of having 5 years worth of data. For the sole reason that they tend to close very quickly. And if you wait for a small cap manager to have 5 years of data, odds are good they're not going to be accepting any more money, and we found that out with Iron Bridge. They're getting ready to close, probably coming up within the year.
What that means is they won't accept any more investment money.
Right, because what they do is, with small cap stocks, there's a chance of a stock being very illiquid. There's not many shares out there to purchase. If they have a fund that's $10 billion, they're going to need to purchase just about all of a small cap company in order to fund that. So what they do is they like to keep that at about $1 billion, $1.5 billion is their total assets under management.
Have you worked with Iron Bridge before, Sean?
We have, yes.
Yeah. And how about with Cook and Butler?
Cook and Butler we have as well. In fact, all the managers that we have recommended, we have worked with in the past at various times.
Based on your previous experience with each of these recommended managers, is there any cause for concern or any
No, none whatsoever. If there were, they wouldn't have been invited to the interview process, really. All of that due diligence was done ahead of time. We're very comfortable with all of the organizations.
Sean, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree completely with what's being said here. Is there is a 0.6 of a difference, percentage difference over a 5-year period translates to almost $500,000.
Correct.
And for that so-called gap of 0.6% to be closed by 1 quarter, you're taking 1 quarter and averaging it against basically 20 quarters.
Correct.
So to close that gap based upon 3 months of performance is very unlikely.
Right. The best way that would be done would be a very strong performance by C.S. McKee for the 4th quarter, and if the quarter that we're cutting off the end, because it's a rolling 20-quarter period really, if that was a very poor quarter for them. The number that I think is most relevant on page 1 is the 3-year return. That represents the amount of time that C.S. McKee has been restructured that Greg Melvin has been in place with the performance